Welcome to the January 12th, 2021, 6:15 p.m. open session meeting of the Ayer Planning Board. I need to read the blurb from the governor. Due to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, Governor Baker issued an emergency order temporarily suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law. Public bodies otherwise governed by the open meeting law are temporarily relieved from the requirement that meetings be held in public places, open and physically accessible to the public, so long as measures are taken to ensure public access to the body's deliberations through adequate alternative means. This meeting will be broadcast live on Channel 8 and on Zoom. The public may participate remotely by following the call-in information on the bottom of the live broadcast screen. For the Zoom meeting information relating to remote participation, please contact Cindy Knox, IT Director, at cknox@ayer.ma.us or 978-772-8252, or Heather Hampson, Administrative Coordinator, at hampson@ayer.ma.us or 978-772-8214 prior to the meeting. Thank you. Welcome all. Good evening. I just want to let you know that I have been made a co-host and people are coming into the meeting while I'm talking, so it's a little bit confusing. So, first order of business, call to order, we've done that. General business, approve the agenda. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Krantz. Has moved. May I have a second, please?
Seconded.
Thank you, Ms. Murray. Moved by Mr. Krantz, seconded by Mr. Murray. Is there any discussion on the agenda at this point? Hearing none. I need to do this by the pictures on the screen. Ms. Murray, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Mr. Krantz?
Aye.
Mr. Diskin?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, which brings us to our first item on the agenda this evening. And good evening, all. It's so weird. I can't look at people in a room and say, welcome to our meeting tonight, but there's lots of faces on the screen. Good evening. Preliminary subdivision plan for 0 Washington Street, Northeast Side Development, LLC, and Beals Associates. And I'm beginning to affectionately call this Panther Place. I hope you guys don't mind.
That's fair.
Okay.
That's fine.
Thank you. Mr. Archambault, you've got your hand up.
Yes, I'm raising my hand because I thought that we discussed that because we have the conservation administrator in, as well as Jonathan Krantz, who attended a special meeting with one of the commissioners, that we were going to take other business first to discuss the joint meeting between the Conservation Commission and the Planning Board about improving the OSRD process.
Okay, excuse me for a minute. Let me just double check my email.
Yep.
I think the offer was 7 p.m. during other business.
Oh, it was. Okay.
It was.
Sure, if it would.
So I'd like to shoot for 7 p.m. for that, please.
Okay.
Okay? Thanks. So we'll take that up under old business and administrative announcements, and I'm going to shoot for 7 o'clock, plus or minus. We'll see how it goes with Panther Place. Thank you. Back to preliminary subdivision plan. It's always odd how we start these things. Thank you very much for sending over a revised plan, and I guess there's been some give and take since last Friday on the revised plans. Some back and forth between us. Yes. Okay.
Yes,
I kind of want to catch everybody up because just want to get everybody on the same page to move forward. Okay.
Sure.
I'm going to just, if I may, encapsulate it first of all. Also read the updated application. Thank you very much. A quick read of the application. Where we stand is we're now looking at still 28 lots, 2 A&Rs, 26 buildings in Panther Place and Claw Circle. Correct?
Correct.
Thank you. There was also some other changes made on the plans. Thank you very much. And I'm hoping that you'll take a moment to go through them, but I think these are the things I didn't get a chance to really look at the plans until today. I think Mr. Diskin got a chance to go over them today also, so we have some questions. Thank you for including the colored plan. That's very helpful. Thank you for including the elevations and the floor plans of possible houses that are there. That's also very helpful. Does somebody from the project want to actually walk us through the changes quickly?
Sure, I can do that. Larry Beals. And if it helps, I can share my screen and we put together a quick PowerPoint.
I think that'd be very helpful, if you don't
Okay.
mind. I believe you can share.
Let me see.
It should be on. I was told that, yes, there you go. Thank you.
Okay.
We're-
And I have to say, I just wrapped up a meeting down in Plainville, so I'm actually sitting in my car right now. If you wonder why I look like I'm in a dark room.
I've wanted to get out of Plainville fast too, like Mr. Beals. More than once in my life, I've wanted to get the heck out of Plainville. But we'll understand. Go ahead, please.
Yeah. So I'm going to try to run all this from my car.
Yep.
And Brian Sutherland is on the phone, and Ben Enos with me too. So if my screen freezes up with the mobile hotspot, then I'll shift over to them.
Thank you.
But these are the highlights of what we have submitted to the board. And a lot of it was cleanup. It was correcting some of the, we made some changes in the narrative and on the plans, and a lot of it reflects the discussions that we've had for the past couple of months on this project. So I believe this was a plan that was requested last time, where we take the colors and overlay it, and hopefully this doesn't require much of an explanation. I'm just hoping that we accomplished what you were hoping to accomplish with this.
It's actually, yes, thank you.
Okay.
Time's short. I'm just going to say yes. Go ahead.
Okay. So the darker orange, reddish orange is the open space and the wetland areas, and then the pinkish color are the buffer zones, and then the yellow is the area outside of the buffer zones.
If I may, the pink and yellow border is the 100-foot border on the buffer zone, correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
Correct. Okay, and this was the revised OSRD plan that we had discussed and presented, and the main changes on this is that let me do this, let me get my laser pointer, is we extended this road a little bit further, and that made each lot have become a little bit wider and a little less, a little bit more shallow. And we advanced this as an alternative that we think makes a lot of sense. And we expanded the easement to provide access to the open space. And we also showed some walking trails. We've had some preliminary dialogue with Natural Heritage. They're generally okay with this plan. We don't have anything in writing to present. And they just wanted to be certain that if walking trails were included down here, that it's very passive walking, that there's no dirt bikes, ATVs, off-road vehicles, anything like that. And we assured them that that was not our intent. We would do what's necessary to prevent that.
I appreciate you saying it that way, because it's never our intent either, but it's sometimes difficult to police in this area.
Right. And sometimes those power lines open up corridors that are easy with a motorized vehicle to navigate. We've revised the grading and drainage a bit, and we have graded this roadway, and we haven't done any of the lot grading yet because we're still in the preliminary, but we've thrown some contours onto this plan, and I can perhaps enlarge it a bit. And I think what's significant is, all of the proposed contours, all of the existing contours are dashed lines. And then we have the proposed contours as solid lines. So you don't see a tremendous number of proposed contours, because as we mentioned, we're trying to work with the landscape here so that the roadway more or less undulates. We've got a real nice shape to the landscape that you probably recall from the site walk of walking downhill, coming up onto a plateau where the cul-de-sac is, and then pitching back down to the critical resource areas to the north. And then this was a plan that we presented with the actual numbers of the square feet in the north of the easement, square feet south of the easement, and then the actual square feet within the power line easement. You know, there's a discussion about whether that should be included or not, but we at least wanted to be clear on what the numbers are when those calculations are made.
Thank you. Just so that you know, I just made a screenshot of that because I was looking for those numbers and I was unable to find them. So that's
Okay.
very, very helpful. Thank you. Yep, very helpful. Thank you.
If it's helpful, I can also email this PowerPoint to the board.
I just grabbed a shot right now because it may come up in our conversation later. But
Terrific.
Thank you. I think I know the answer. I think we may be able to figure out how to get to the answer to the question we were discussing. But I was discussing with somebody else. But thank you. Yes. Okay.
And then
Please continue. Yeah.
the last time we got together, we talked about site distances. We presented a graphic that showed it, and I'm not sure that we convinced you 100%. So after the last meeting, we decided it made sense to engage a professional traffic engineer. So Joe Levine, Northeast Site Development, hired Ken Cram, who you may or may not know. I've known Ken for many years. He's a very competent, well-respected traffic engineer. We provided this memo, and we also have this drawing, but I thought it might be worthwhile, if it's helpful to the board, to have Ken at least present his findings so that you're hearing it from somebody that is more qualified to make these statements and conclusions than I am. So, Mr. Chair, if it's okay, I'll turn it over to Ken Cram.
I, for one, am happy to hear the information. So I think I'm looking at the very small panel of people's faces, and I don't see anybody scowling. So why don't we go forward with it, Mr. Cram? Thank you.
Okay. Ken, do you want to just hit the high points of your memo?
Sure. I'll just highlight it. Again, Ken Cram from Bayside Engineering. And yes, I've known Larry for a good many years as well. And what I did was went out there and actually drove it myself, looked at the sight lines myself, did the calculations myself, and based on the speeds. Normally we would, if we didn't have a lot of time, so we had to do it by the driving method, where I drove up and down the road following other cars to figure out what the speed is, because the sight distance calculations that the state uses, Mass DOT, is based on the 85th percentile speed of what the vehicles are traveling on that roadway. And so I found that based on my measurements, it was about 33, 34 miles per hour in either direction, which is slightly higher than the posted speed limit, but not excessively slow. And of course, we are in a school zone, and during the school zone time, the posted speed limit is 20 miles per hour. And I want to commend the town, particularly the police department, because it just so happened, I don't know if they're there every day, but the day I was out there, they were out there monitoring vehicles on Washington Street, making sure they adhered to the speed limit. And what we found, what I have here is the required calculations and the measurements that we performed. And as you can see, for 30 miles per hour and 20 miles per hour, what we've observed and recorded for measured sight distances exceeds those numbers. And as well as whatever for 33, 34 miles per hour, we exceed those as well. Keeping in mind, these numbers are based on Mass DOT and AASHTO, American Association of State Highway and Transportation Officials, requirements, so to speak. We adjust for grades. So if you're going downhill, there's more of a chance of you going faster, and if you're going uphill, there's more of a chance of you going slower. So those grades are affected in the calculation, and we meet the requirements for all three of the speeds we studied. So we're confident that from a safety point of view, that there was adequate sight distance at the proposed access roadway intersection with Washington Street.
Thank you. While we have you, Mr. Cram, let me ask if there's any questions from the board members about this. We don't have to take the questions now, but if as you're looking at this, any questions from folks?
I'll ask him a question.
Thank you, Mr. Diskin.
So, Mr. Cram, you were given a very accurate location as to where a car would be sitting as it left the new proposed location, I presume.
Yes,
And also the potential elevation of that, if that elevation that is there now is most likely low, so the new elevation would be higher. Did you anticipate that? The grade would most likely be higher as now it's tipped down, right? There'd be a flat spot, Mr. Beals, before the cars would leave the new road.
That is
Instead of
correct.
being angled up like this, it'd be, okay,
yes, we took that into account, Mr. Diskin.
okay, thank you. And that the vehicle you show there that's on the diagram with the sight distance of 248, that's a person sitting in a car that looking out their window in their front window, I presume, rather than someone just, it takes into effect the height, the change in height and all that other that goes
It
along with
does.
it. Yeah,
It does.
okay. That's all I had. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions from board members? If not, Mr. Cram, may I ask you to go back to the table on the page before, please? I'm sorry, Mr. Beals. Thank you. Yeah, there we go. Just so, unfortunately, there was a noise going off behind me when we were talking about this. Just one thing I'm curious about is the average stopping distance. Is that an automobile? Is that a truck? What is the vehicle? Can you help me with that? Understand that?
This is for an automobile. If we were to do it for trucks, then we would be looking at different sight lines entirely, because trucks, the driver's eye in a truck is typically a lot higher than it is for a car.
Thank you. I know, in all honesty, you're talking to a guy who drives triaxles sometimes. So yes, I understand. I just was curious about that. Okay. So this is automobile to automobile traffic.
Correct.
Thank you. Okay. Any other questions on members of the board?
I guess I have one. Oh, sorry. Anyone else?
Hearing none, Mr. Diskin, you're on again.
So I'm going to ask the proponent, and I guess this would go to Mr. Levine. Are you proposing that this would satisfy any requirement that we would have in the definitive for any kind of traffic study?
That's correct. That this would take care of it.
And Mr. Cram, would you feel comfortable with that?
As this document standing as a traffic study itself?
Well, no, the question is, we might typically ask for a traffic study with the definitive plan. Now we're in a preliminary plan, and it looks like you've provided, a memo with statistics and whatnot, not a full traffic study. So my question is, do you believe that this will adequately serve the benefit of a traffic study when the final plan is produced?
I'm not sure how to answer that question, because this is a study to look at the sight distances and make sure the driveway is safe. That was our primary goal.
Okay.
If we, for a traffic study, the 26 homes would generate, anywhere from 23 to 28 trips probably on a daily basis, which, based on my observations of the Washington Street, the surrounding area, would not have a significant impact on the intersections nearby or at the site driveway. My concern would primarily be with this project, making sure we have a safe and efficient access.
I would agree with that, but someone has a lot of noise in the background. I don't know who it is.
Let me mute mine. Tell me if it's me.
I don't know. Yeah, now it's gone. Yeah.
Can I ask a question on that?
Please excuse me for a minute. I'll be right back.
I guess I'm asking both Kens, but the only thing I keep thinking of when we've done traffic studies before, and as you're saying with the 26 homes, that this wouldn't take that into account just yet is we're looking at a school and a road during COVID when most of the employees and the school people aren't coming or going. So I wouldn't know. That's not for what we're talking about here, but I guess Ken Diskin, as you're talking about a definitive, I don't know if that factors into your thinking, but it's on my mind.
I was trying to get an idea of how confident they were that this would be satisfactory. My primary concern was also for safety, not the number of vehicles on the road.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
Might I add one thing? The Institute of Transportation Engineers typically recommends traffic studies when the project generates 100 or more peak hour trips. Where the 26 homes would be projected to generate less than 30 trips during the peak hours. So based on ITE, a traffic study would not be required.
okay.
Mr. Diskin, if I can make a suggestion, I think what we would do is, when we move from a preliminary to a definitive, we're moving into a new process. So I think we would be most comfortable if we refiled this information as part of the definitive.
Right.
Probably adding in some of the statements that Ken Cram just made about the volumes of traffic, and then the board can consider at that time whether or not this adequately addresses the board's needs.
I appreciate that, and
But-
we have a good start.
Yeah, our intent now is the issue kept surfacing and we didn't seem to be reaching a conclusion. So we felt we may have jumped the gun, but we thought this was a good exercise right now to get done just so that we could frame it properly and the board could appreciate that it does have adequate sight distance. So we will add that to the, presuming we can advance from a preliminary to a definitive, then we would make that part of the filing as well.
Thank you, and I'm sorry, Mr. Beals. I wasn't looking at the screen and I was muted. What I wanted to say is thank you very much for providing this information. This was one of the main concerns we had as we walked the property and discussed it with the folks who were there. So I think this helps alleviate it to a certain extent also. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Do you have more to the, is there more?
No, my last screen is blank. So, as I said, we didn't have a ton of information to present. So, I'd like to turn it back to the board, and we're here to answer any and all questions that you may have.
Okay, let me do this. I know I haven't had an opportunity to pour through them as at the detail level I wanted to. It's just been a time thing. I know Mr. Diskin's looked at them. Do we have other people? Only because Ken and I have been discussing it off and on today. Other folks have any questions they want to ask about this? Mr. Krantz, Mr. King, or Ms. Murray?
Mr. Rochambeau.
Mr. Harsh, I'm sorry. He's not on my screen. You know what it is? You're not on my screen. So yeah, Mr. Archambault, exactly.
Yeah, I just wanted to remind the board that the board is yet to make conservation findings according to the Conservation Commission's December 7th recommendation on that. Wanted to remind the board that the general conservation findings from the commission does not mean that we're saying that all areas within the buffer zone, all areas north of the NHESP line are off limits. It's just an indication of we agree that those are high priority areas for conservation that are deserving of special attention. One thing that the board should do before closing out the preliminary subdivision, I use the word hearing, even though it's not a hearing, is looking at the base lot yield from the yield plan. That's something that we have yet to talk about. And I think it's probably not a good time to discuss it this evening, but one thing that we should try to queue up for the next meeting is a discussion, a painful discussion perhaps, of the power lines counting towards the minimum required open space. I know we have two conflicting opinions on that, one from our town council and one from Attorney Para. I think, we should look at those and, consider where we want to fall on that. The only thing I want to caution the board about is that whatever decision we make for this subdivision on that issue will also apply, I believe, to other subdivisions. So, that's something we should consider. And lastly, we should also discuss the timeline for making a recommendation on the preliminary plan. We received this plan late last week, a little bit after I had a chance to thoroughly review it. I was not in on Friday, so I don't have any detailed comments yet. So we have a planning board meeting on the 26th in 2 weeks, and we also have a planning board meeting on February 9th. So I'm thinking that, we need at least 2 weeks, perhaps till February 9th, to really give this subdivision, the due diligence that it deserves. And also to be fair to the applicant in doing a thorough job. So I just wanted to bring that up before we go on to other business, so that we can discuss the timeline. And we may need an extension from the applicant to go actually beyond this evening. So we should discuss if we want to take 2 weeks to finish this all up, or if we think it will take a little bit longer.
Thank you, Mark. You hit us with a couple of things all at once, and I unfortunately didn't take notes, but you brought something to mind that I would actually like to ask the applicant about, if I may. And it may actually help alleviate some of the concern on one of the topics you brought up. If I could ask you to, does somebody have a copy of the plans that they can share?
Jeff,
Oh, there it is.
Can
Right
we have
there.
it can you unshare the screen? Because I used the background to put up other documents, so it's taking my.
Actually, Ken, that was the one I wanted to look at, just
All right,
that one.
Go ahead then.
Yeah, if you don't mind. Could I ask a favor, Larry, Mr. Beals, you're doing this, correct? You're sharing?
Yes, I am.
Okay, if it's, could you just enlarge the open space requirements table at the top of the page?
Yep.
The middle table. And this is why I grabbed a copy of the other sheet. Okay. I don't know if it may not enlarge so we can read it. I don't think it's going to be legible.
That's about as large as I can get it.
That's not going to. So let me just, if I may, just ask the question I'm going to ask. And I have a finance background. I went to this open space requirements table and I started to try and back into the numbers in the table. I couldn't make it work with any of the numbers on the plan. I'm curious if the numbers in the table reflect the correct numbers. And I'm not throwing anybody under the bus, I'm just asking that question. The total lot area is 893, 813 in the open space requirements calculation. And in other portions of the plan, total lot area is shown as 924, 600. So one of the issues I'd like to get my arms around is, are we working with the same numbers for the different pieces of the project? In other words, how you're calculating the open space. And I'm not sure there's an answer to that right now. And I don't want to put,
Yeah.
Okay.
We talking about, there's different, if we have different plans, the yield. Larry, go ahead.
Well, what I appreciate your question.
If I may, I'm just trying to foot the numbers.
Frankly, we've got.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I'm doing it for a couple of different reasons, but yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think, and keep in mind, we have a couple of different iterations. So when you say the plan, the first thing to do is focus on which plan we're talking about. And I think maybe the best thing, since you're making some big decisions on this, is for us to give you a very clear chart on each plan about how the numbers break down. And I'm not sure I can do that to your satisfaction tonight by flipping between all these drawings and trying to enlarge them. To the best of our knowledge,
Yep.
we believe that we've done everything correctly. I will say, Ben Enos, an engineer in my office, and I spent a lot of time staring at your zoning bylaw, trying to interpret it as best we can, thinking that we've interpreted it the right way. So it might be helpful for us to throw some of those assumptions in as well.
So I guess where I'm going with this, Mr. Beals, is I'm not looking for a fight. I'm trying to figure out what the numbers are so that we are all starting from the same place and then taking a look at it. Because my back of the envelope calculations, I'm making some assumptions. They're, roughly 12,000 square foot lots. Well, I upped it to 13,000 square feet. I multiply by 28. That gives me a amount of space. I take a look at the power line easement. I now have 90,000 square feet. I used 88. Believe it or not, I'm pretty close. Okay. The south of power line, north of power line, I didn't break those out, but then again, I look at the top page of the drawings, and that's page 1, and I'm going to hold it up. You won't be able to see it, but right here in big numbers tells us the whole space. So that's the breakdown I was doing. I appreciate that we need to have a discussion about power lines and conservation, but I have a feeling the denominator is so large that in this project, it's not critical. And that's, I think, where I'm going, where that's the back of the envelope calculation. I don't want to show you my cards, but I want to make sure we all have the same numbers and we're all moving forward with the same information. Is that fair?
Yep. That's extremely fair. Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, and the regulations actually require accurate numbers. So absent you're verifying that they're accurate, you can't really act on it.
Yeah, and I've worked with large money center banks in New York who have sent me the wrong numbers all the time. It happens, and it's frustrating, but it's one of the first things I did was open up it's a spreadsheet, my back of the envelope calculator, start plugging things in, and I got frustrated. So that's part of it. Okay. And I don't want anybody to get thrown under the bus for this. Okay. I understand how detailed these are, but as you can tell, we look at these things. Do anybody else on the board have any other questions for?
I have a comment on what we're talking about, Jeff.
Oh, please do.
So first of all, I'd like to thank the applicant for including the open space table that we asked for. And I'd like to make a recommendation that potentially that table doesn't need to be laying on the plan, but could be in a separate narrative. So that would be on a separate sheet of paper with a couple of paragraphs related to it. And then we can just look at that separately. We don't have to find it on the drawing. And that way you could easily put some language in there as to the sections of the bylaw that you're complying with and the calculations and things like that. And then add the table later after you're done with that if you want. But I agree with Jeff that there's a discrepancy there.
I mean,
and frankly, Mr. Diskin, that's the direction I was going, is putting together a memo with a narrative and a breakdown of the numbers so that you can understand how we got there. And if you disagree, you'll be able to point to what you disagree to.
Thank you.
No, thank you. I do appreciate that because that is. Yep. Okay. Now I have to apologize. We got talking about the yield, not the yield, the open space requirement calculation. And Mark, you had a bunch of other. Timeline was one thing you wanted to talk about, Mark. I didn't jot it down while we were talking. I was trying to foot numbers in front of me.
Yes.
Never put numbers in front of me, guys. I'll get preoccupied.
Well, back on the very first iteration of the plan, which was submitted to us in, late November, based on that timetable, I believe we had until January 15th in which to statutorily make a recommendation on a preliminary plan, which would have been this evening. However, since we have a second iteration of the plan, I'm wondering what would be a fair date for the planning board to take? How much time would the planning board need to take in order to do a thorough job reviewing this plan and to get a good set of recommendations to the applicant so that he can prepare a definitive plan that is congruent with our desires. My thoughts on this is that 2 weeks is probably too soon, since there are quite a few issues that we have to discuss. I think we could easily do this in time for February 9th, which is our first meeting in February. That would allow us additional time to research the open space issues, to check all the calculations, to see if there's anything else we need to address, so that we'll have 2 meetings in which to finalize. If that is acceptable to the applicant, I would request through the planning board that the applicant just issue us a simple letter stating that they authorize the planning board to take until February 9th to make a recommendation on this preliminary plan.
I'm going to ask the applicant, how do you feel about that?
Jeff, I was going to ask you to poll the board first.
Oh, I'm sorry, Ken. I'm not sitting in a room with people. Yes, thank you. How do other board members feel?
I think it may take that, but I'd like to make sure that we are moving with all due diligence. If we can do it in 2 weeks, that would be great.
Thank you, Mr. King. Other input? No, I'm going to unshare the screen at let me unshare the screen so we're all on the same. Actually, Mr. Beals, thank you very much. I can't unshare a screen, it turns out. Now I can see everybody in the room. Mr. Krantz, have you any comments to make?
Yeah, I mean, I'd be willing to even close this the next meeting. I mean, remember, this is a preliminary plan. And I really, wonder how much we really need to invest in a preliminary.
I appreciate that. Ms. Murray, any? Okay.
Sounds accurate to me, but I'm deferring to my fellow board members.
Thank you. I think what we've got, if I'm going to read the tea leaves. We would appreciate. I'm sorry, Mr. Diskin.
I was never asked. I know I don't count for much, but come on, give me a break. Yeah?
Okay, I'm off my feed tonight. Go ahead, Mr. Diskin.
I strongly believe we can get it done at the next meeting, and I believe that the data that's been updated for tonight's meeting is pretty complete. I'd like to go back just quickly to a couple of comments that we might have had on the new paperwork we got, the narrative and whatnot. And then I'd like to suggest we move right on to the yield plan count and things like that. And just keep moving. I think we can get it done at the next meeting.
Appreciate that. My reading of the tea leaves is I was going to hope like heck we can get it done to the next meeting. Okay. I was going to ask if the applicant's willing to give us 2 meetings. That's great, but I don't see anything that's going to keep us from moving forward with due diligence, as Mr. King said, with all due diligence on this one, this preliminary plan. We're out of the holiday season, guys. Let's get our work done.
So what is the date of the next meeting?
It's sorry, Mark, what's the date of the next meeting? February 8th? February 9th?
No, next meeting is
26th.
Tuesday, January 26th.
2 weeks.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yes. It's International Customs Day, sir.
So we can grant you an extension. I assume since the next meeting is 26th, then you'd probably want an extension to a day or 2 after that, if there's paperwork to follow. If we get to the 26th, then we've got insurmountable problems that we haven't resolved. We can always grant another extension, but I do like trying to move forward to get into the definitive, and I think we'll try to support that effort.
I appreciate that, and I think that's where I think we're probably all looking at it the same way. If you want to pick the 29th, that's Friday. What happens is when we decide to have a set signed, I have to make arrangements to get to the town hall. We each have to make arrangements to get there. So we have worked with the belief that when we say it's going to go forward, it will. Then the logistics of getting it signed are a challenge, but we'll get it done.
So we can Mark requested a letter. We can prepare a PDF and send it electronically, granting the extension.
An email,
Is that
a PDF.
sufficient?
That's yeah. We've in the time of COVID, we've used emails and PDFs. Thank you.
Okay.
Great.
Okay.
Ken, what other issues did you want to take on right now?
Well, I wanted to go back. I didn't think we gave them enough time to go through the narrative and the drawings, all the drawings, but I just have a couple of quick things on the revised narrative, that's all. If you don't mind.
Let's use the time.
Okay, so and this would be for Mr. Beals or Mr. Sutherland, whoever wrote the narrative, but on the very first page of the project narrative, the previous application said that I think there was a slight change in the percentage of the, sloping of the road and whatnot of 6.8%. Now it's 4.6%. So I want to know why that changed, I guess, so much.
I believe that change is a function of extending the roadway the way
Okay.
we did, and it allowed us to make it a flatter roadway.
Okay, well, I think it's good. I just was curious as to why.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then in the next paragraph down, whoever wrote the report wrote a summary here of the portions of the lots that were within buffer zones and resource areas. And then there was a final note at that sentence says, it is to be noted that each lot listed includes sufficient space for the construction of a single family dwelling outside of any 25-foot no disturb zone. I didn't think we had established a 25-foot no disturb zone, but I think we pretty much like that. So I thought that was a good thing to put in there, if that's what you intend to do.
We believe we can do it.
That's certainly what we intend to do, and that's probably a holdover from other projects. It seems like a lot of towns are establishing 25-foot no disturb zones. And
Yes.
frankly, 25 feet's pretty close.
I know, I've done it in Andover.
I'm shaking my head on the 25-foot, but keep going. I'm only one person.
The final comment, and we'll get to it later, was basically regarding the density bonuses, and we'll talk about that later. But that's all I had. I just wanted to clarify those couple of quick things. Thank you.
Exactly, and
Thank you.
I think I brought this up before while we're looking at that paragraph. The final paragraph on, I guess this is page 6 or whatever, says the project will result in 26 lots with the proposed OSRD and 2 approval not required lots with frontage on Washington Street. And I'm assuming, are those lots 1 and 2 on your plan, just out of curiosity?
Yes.
Thank you. Other questions from other board members regarding this?
Yeah, I was going to go back to that A&R while you're talking about it. I guess I was going to suggest, it's up to the engineer, that those not be labeled with the numbering 1 and 2, but be given a separate lot number identification and start with number 1 on the 26 count. Go into 26. Okay. So you'd call it whatever, a lot 4 or 54, or whatever you want to call it. But
so the lots within the subdivision will begin with number 1.
Correct.
I would assume, the lot 3, which is the one on the corner of Panther Place in Washington, would be lot 1 in the subdivision.
Okay.
Or in the OSRD, excuse me. Thank you.
How should we designate the A and R lots?
I don't know.
I mean, we could do a lot A, B.
I would say lot A or lot A or B, yeah.
Okay.
I was thinking the same thing, but lot A and lot B. Okay. I'm assuming you're going to put the utilities through to Panther Place, but I don't know how you'll decide to do that once you get on the ground and want to connect them.
Okay.
I thought the rest of the updates on the drawings pretty much satisfied what we had asked for. So
okay,
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'll look through them, and if something pops up because I couldn't get to them until today, if I come up with something, I'll let you know as soon as possible.
Okay.
Can I be frank?
Yes.
I understand that we all want to be very collegial, and I appreciate that. But at the same time, I got to express my disappointment in seeing those lots so deeply extended into the ACEC. And especially since it really isn't necessary, given that the OSRD regulations give you the opportunity for smaller lot sizes and also for some 2 families, et cetera. And this will be large in my mind when we go to vote on the special permits for the density bonuses. So I'm just laying it out there for the applicant to understand that.
Okay, I'm writing down as
Thank you.
you speak. And I assume you mentioned ACEC. I think you mean natural heritage?
I mean the
Just so
natural
that-
heritage.
Okay, good. I want to make sure I understood the right spot.
Thank you. I was like, where's the ACEC? But this thing, no, the Natural Heritage, the NHESP boundary, correct, Jonathan?
Yes, that's right.
Thank you. Mhm.
Well, appreciate that comment. I wrote it down.
Other question, and I didn't read the narrative very carefully. The walking trail is going to be a you're going to delineate the trail in some way. I'm assuming it's not going to be impervious.
Correct. We want to have minimal disruption. Probably, those conservation markers that you can nail to a tree or paint on the tree. Natural heritage preference is to really minimize it. And we don't want to change the ground surface. We want to leave it intact and clear some limited amount of brush just so you can see a trail and the path is clear. But no, the less disruption, the better.
Great. Thank you.
How would
And-
that clearing be maintained, by the way? Do you see like to a homeowners association or what, or I guess, or to the conservation restriction? How would that be maintained?
The way you traditionally maintain trails is by use. So, if the trail is getting some use, the path maintains itself. I haven't really thought about that. The maintenance would be simply clearing some brush as it grows up. Or I suppose if a tree falls across the trail, somebody might want to cut that. How about if we come back on the information that we submit and make a recommendation on that?
Thank you.
So if I can address that a little bit, typically a conservation restriction that provides for trails, calls for unpaved trails and usually limited in width to 8 or 10 feet. We would have no problem inserting into the homeowners, documents, an obligation to, maintain the trail. And again, typically, as Larry said, this is really just a matter of, clipping and removing falling branches and things like that from the trail.
If I may ask a quick question, while we're talking about the access to the open space at this point, there is no prescribed parking back there. And what's the width of the road going to be back there?
On the cul-de-sac?
Yeah.
Well, it's to your town standards. It's
Okay.
The pavement section is 24 feet, I think.
22.
22. Okay.
Okay.
So the loop around. We thought about that, and I think the criticism of putting parking back there is then, residents began to park in it, and it would get used by people perhaps that shouldn't be using it, and it just seemed like a natural to have it out in front. The cars aren't bothering anybody out there. It's next to the kiosk, and if you're going there for exercise, it forces you to do a little bit more exercise to walk to the end of the cul-de-sac, down to the walking trail. So it seemed to make sense when we
Okay.
were planning it out.
No, I appreciate that. Thank you. I just wanted to make sure it was included in the thinking. Thank you. Anybody else on the board have any comments they'd like to make or questions for the applicant at this point? We're getting, I apologize, gentlemen, but given our time constraints, we're getting a little farther on. Any questions from the applicant for us you want us to make aware of that we haven't touched on?
I don't think we have any. I'll go first, Joe. I think the issues that we want to resolve, we want to give you a crystal clear accounting of the calculations for open space and all the applicable sections out of the zoning as they apply to this subdivision. We want to renumber the plans to differentiate between A&Rs and the subdivision. And we're going to provide a density bonus analysis explaining how we derived the bonus lots.
Thank you. Anybody else? Is that going to be okay? Anybody else have anything on their mind?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I think if we're going to have one more meeting and try to reach a final recommendation on a plan, it would be helpful for the applicant to have an understanding of the planning board's view of the inclusion of the power line easement in the open space.
I appreciate that. And one of the things we need to discuss as a planning board, issue's been brought to a fine point with this plan, and something we're going to have to discuss as a planning board. And one of the reasons why, Mr. Para, I asked about the actual calculations is from a yields, I don't want to use the word yield because it confuses yield plan, but from an open space calculation, I'm not sure how it's going to fall out, because I don't have the numbers yet. Mr. Krantz.
Do we know how materially different would the calculations be without the power line easement square footage included? I mean, in other words, what I'm trying to get at is how material is the issue? What would be the material impact of that change?
On this OSRD.
Correct.
Okay, and I think, Mr. Parr, that's where we are right now. Is I don't have an answer for that. Mr. Archambault?
Yes, I would recommend that in addition to the revised table of the calculations, it could help us in assessing this very question to see two tables, one with the power line easement included in the open space and one with it not included. I think that would be very useful information for the board to see.
I guess my question is conceptually, does the planning board have a feeling as to whether power line easement should or should not be included in this case in the open space? And I understand what you're saying, Mr. Chairman, that the calculation hasn't been demonstrated to you that it's necessary for this plan, but for this plan, we believe it is.
Well, thank you. Then this is okay. So one of the questions I have is I've seen an opinion. I have not gone out and done any research on what communities are doing with and without, given the issue, which is basically your letter to us and the letter from our town council have, of course, different viewpoints. And the question I have, I personally haven't had an opportunity to do the work I think I need to do to understand this, both in this situation and in situation going forward. One of the things we were going to do as a planning board is take this up. As you know, this is our first meeting since our last meeting. So I wish I had a better, I mean, I'm loath to poll the board right now because the discussion hasn't taken place, to be honest with you, sir.
All right, I understand that you're not prepared to address the issue with us tonight. I just want to, I guess, summarize how we got here, which is that we started with the Conservation Commission and its analysis of the areas that should be included in the conservation restriction. And that included the power line easement area, and for, I think, very good reasons, which is the connectivity both for people and for wildlife of the entire conservation area and the proposed adjacent conservation area. So I think just from the point of view of conservation, the inclusion of the power line easement is appropriate in this case. And I'm not saying it would be appropriate in every case, but there is substantial, precedent in the Commonwealth for conservation restrictions that include, utility line easements. In my own town, we have the Tennessee gas pipeline that crosses multiple pieces of land subject to conservation restrictions. That's just an example.
Well, this was a question I was going to ask you, Attorney.
When you get a chance, Jeff,
Yeah,
recognize me when you get a chance.
thank you. Yeah, Mr. Parley, would you like to continue? Or?
No, I just wanted to remind the board, this is how we got to where we are, and to now have the issue, placed, pulling the power line easement area out of the conservation land, at the very least comes as a bit of a surprise.
Thank you. Mr. Diskin?
Yeah, I'd like to comment on the process that we're in, and I'd like to try to simplify it a little bit, and I'm hoping the rest of the board will listen to this explanation and agree or disagree. But the first thing I want to do, Mr. Perez, and Mr. Ashenbo, is I want to separate the calculation of the yield plan away from the discussion on open space. The yield plan numbers are shown on a drawing that does not indicate any work beyond the NHESP line and is not considering the existence of the power line easement to New England Power. So I believe the yield plan is done, and we're ready. We should be ready to vote on that count, and it complies with the requirements of the OSRD. And I think that's where some of the confusion comes in. We're taking some language from the yield plan calculations and applying it to what I believe is the second discussion, which is open space left over after the OSRD new lots are placed. And that number, I think, is what Jeff is trying to get at. If we were to ask a question, look, how much, this is the way I would consider the applicant look at this. Can you break down how much exact square footage is used by the lots after the OSRD lots are placed, excluding, of course, the two lots that are A&R, so those don't count anymore, and exclude those two A&R lots from the original calculation, which may be why that number went down from where we started from. Taking that leftover space as being the open space and say, okay, that's the percentage. Then the second exercise is to take out the power line easement and find out then if you're still over 50% or 55%. I think that's what I'm trying to do. And maybe that's what we're trying to get at here. So I think the yield plan goes away. I'm in agreement on the yield plan. I think we're all in agreement. I know from my own work and from communication I've had with the power company on a personal basis as well as a planning board basis, that the conservation restriction can be put on the land of the power company easement. That's a no-brainer. What we're really talking about is, can we use that area in our percentage of open space that's available for us to consider you to exceed the 50% minimum that's needed to comply with OSRD? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that's a very fair analysis, and that your very last question is the one that I'm trying to gauge.
Does it make sense? That was my last question.
I spend a lot of time with Mr. Diskin. Sometimes I have to think that too, but usually he makes a lot of sense and he's crystal clear. So, yes, Mr. Archambault.
Yeah, another point for the board. I will research this extensively, see what other towns are doing with this, but also in order to expedite this decision on whether the power line easement area can count towards a minimum required open space. It's not a question of will it be open space, but can it count towards the minimum requirement. In order to act on this plan on the 26th, I think it might be necessary to have a teleconference phone call between our town council, myself, and a planning board member or two to, really hash this out and, come up with a reasonable decision on this prior to the 26th, so that we're not discussing this again on the 26th.
Well, I will
So if
say,
the planning board can authorize me to request that of the town manager, then that would help.
thank you. I will be, because I'm very close and interested in this, I know Mr. Diskin is also, I will volunteer to be involved in that conversation should it need to happen. I also will work with you, Mark, to authorize, if the other board members are okay with this, the conversation to be had. But again, I think if we can get some numbers, as Mr. Diskin kind of laid it out, I'm trying to put together I was no good in algebra, guys. I have the numbers in front of me. I can't work with X and Y. So I think we need to solve this problem for this and future developments. And that is actually on our list of things to discuss, Mr. Parr. I can't speak. I think the board's spoken at this point of where they are.
Mr. Chair, could I make a comment?
Yes, Ms. Gugino.
Jessica Gino on the Conservation Commission. I just wanted to just throw in 2 points. One, Mr. Parr, you said that the Conservation Commission accepted the power line easement as being part of the open space. And I just want to clarify that that wasn't part of our consideration. We did not think about that in calculating the open space. That's partly not our purview. We were concerned about the conservation analysis itself. So I just don't want your mention of the commission having gone through that to be taken as tacit acceptance of that. And then secondly, while you're all figuring out the minimum open space and what's the accurate calculation of that, one thing that I feel very strongly about in the Conservation Commission recommendation was that the planning board are urging that the planning board not start any precedent that would allow surface or underground stormwater structures to be in at least that minimum open space set aside for conservation. So I'm just asking you to keep that in mind as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gugino. I'm not going to have an answer for you this evening, Mr. Parra, on your
No,
request.
I gathered that. Thank you.
Okay, no, you're sitting back looking pensively. I'm thinking to myself, I unfortunately have to move the meeting along.
Yes, no, please.
I'm all about taking the time we need to take, and unfortunately, given COVID, we can't do that some evenings. So I guess the question I have, and I hate to put you on the spot, Mr. Beals, how soon do you think I get numbers?
Well, we'll start looking at that tomorrow. We've got all the numbers. It's just a matter of reformatting them. And I'm assuming we can have something to you by the end of this week.
That I think would help. So again, I'm taking 2 tracks on this. One track is this project. The other track is how we're going to handle sight lines and power lines going forward. So that is the approach that I'm hoping that the planning board will take. They can beat me up on this one, but that's where we stand with it, gentlemen, at this point. Okay.
So
yeah.
I'd like to get it to you on Friday, and then if you have free time over the week, I don't want to tell you how to spend your weekend, but I know everybody has careers and jobs and responsibilities, but at least you've got the weekend if you have the time.
No, I appreciate that, and quite honestly, Mr. Beals, if you get it to me during the evening, I'm up between 5 and 7 in the morning. I got nothing to do usually. I go through all this stuff in the morning and then think about it. No, as soon as you get it to me, I promise to take a quick look at it, because this has been floating. This has been floating since the beginning. You know, I had to make assumptions based on the things, and I'm pretty close. So I think that'll help. It'll go a long way on this project.
Good.
So thank you. With that, Mr. King, do you have your hand up?
Yes. And also Jonathan did too. I don't know if Jonathan, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I was just very quickly, before I turn it back to Nathan, are there any of these findings we can make tonight to move this along? Like the conservation findings? I mean, is there something we can do this evening to push this a little, move it forward?
Jonathan, I appreciate that, but time is short and I've got other things I got to get done tonight.
So I'll just
if I may, I apologize, Jonathan, but the time is short and we've got other folks we got to get some stuff done with. So Mr. King?
Yeah, I'll just make one comment on the power line easement. From what I read this week and understand, if it doesn't interfere, right? If the power company permits within their deed for the conservation restriction to be put on their property, or on not their property, but on what they have deed to, then I think it's in the interest of a contiguous restriction, we would want that land under restriction. And then is it fair to put it under restriction but not include it in the open space? So that's something I think that perhaps if there's a legal counsel discussion this week that would clarify or confirm that the deed would permit the conservation restriction, then I think we should include it.
Thank you.
And that's an extremely interesting point. It's something we debated in the office that, maybe it's a marketing problem that we should stop calling it a power line easement, because that has such a negative connotation. And frankly, when I walk down there, I view it as an open meadow. And if we started calling it, the linear meadow, it would have a completely different feel to it. And frankly, today I was thinking about, I've gone back and forth through that power easement a number of times. It's never occurred to me that I couldn't tell you if there are overhead wires, if they are there, how many they are, what size they are. So the argument of open to the sky, I've always viewed it as being open to the sky. So if we can figure out another term for it, I guess the point I'm trying to make is I think it's very valuable open space from an ecological perspective.
Thank you, Mr. Beals. Mr. Krantz?
An easement by any other name is still what it is. You got power pylons, towers, and lines. They are what they are. They don't disappear because you change the name. That's it.
The other thing, Mr. Beals, when you talk directly to the power company about these things, there's no question they grant the conservation restrictions. I'm going to go on record that that's a no-brainer. I already said it. But they also maintain their ability to install almost anything they want and do almost any kind of service that they want on the land. So what, in fact, you do see there now may not be what you see there 10 years from now or 50 or 100 years from now. Could be totally different.
And Mr. Chair?
Yes, Mr. Gugino.
Just would also add that power line easements, however lovely they are maintained by the use of herbicides, which is not what you would use on conservation land. Thank you.
But they cover that in the conservation restrictions and the language they put in there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I may,
Yes, Mr. Levine.
just one maybe to kind of get this to a somewhat of a closure, and I'm sure you can discuss this after this, is that I think I'd also like the board to consider that, putting aside what it may or may not say in your bylaws and the conservation restrictions, I'd also like the board to consider that, just the use of it. If it's in, is there the benefit and the benefit that it provides as the use, and that it will be used. And if it won't be counted, then, will it then not be used? So there, does the town see a benefit that, okay, well, but we can use it. And if we don't count it, then we don't get the benefit of a use. So I just want to also remind the board to look at it in a practical sense of what's gained when it's in.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. I'm going to put a bow on this, guys, because we have to move on to our next topic at this
Jeff,
point.
can I just make one comment, please?
Yes, please, Heather.
I just want to remind the applicant that we do need paper copies of everything that he's emailing to the board. So when he emails them, if he could drop them off at town hall at the same time, that would be fantastic. It saves me from chasing them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. At this point, I think we're going to close this part of the meeting. We do have more on the agenda. I want to thank you all for your patience, and we've got work to do between now and our next meeting on this topic. Thank you. Next on our agenda.
Jeff, you need the motion to continue?
I'm sorry. Yes, I have a motion, please, to continue to the next meeting.
Continue the preliminary, the review of the preliminary subdivision plan for 0 Washington Street until our next meeting on, what is that, the 26th?
Yes.
January
Thank
26th.
Second, made by Mr. Krantz, seconded by Ms. Murray. My pictures have changed. Mr. King, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Diskin,
Aye.
Mr. Krantz,
Aye.
Ms. Murray. Aye. Chair votes aye. Thank you very much, everybody. Okay. Next on our agenda is the continued public hearing for the special permit 14 Washington Street. There was nothing in our package about this. Do I assume we have no materials?
That is correct. And Heather,
Yes.
could you tell Jeff directly what you found out about the return receipt letter?
Yeah, so we mailed out the return receipt letter. It was sent out on December 22nd, the 23rd. It has not been delivered. It was attempted to be delivered on the 4th and a note was left, but since it has to be signed, it's just sitting in limbo right now. So he hasn't technically received it yet.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh, excuse me.
Please do.
Does anyone know if the person who the letter was addressed to is available by any other means other than the certificate, the registered mail, so they could be hand delivered?
Thank you. That's a great question. We're gonna research that. I did speak with Alan Minoyan about this, and the applicant is loath to move forward until he hears from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts about some things. I have explained.
That's
and
a third
asked-
party. That's a third party piece of information. So
Yes, it is. In not being able to get a hold of the applicant, I've asked if there's a way through also, Mr. Diskin. Did we follow up, Mark, with an email?
Yes, but there was no receipt from the email except the standard, I am out of the office, that was it. No other replies.
There may be a possibility the applicant isn't. Anyway, I'm going to ask Mr. Krantz. I'm not pleased with this, but I'm going to ask you to continue. So here's what's in the balance. We have a project that benefits the town that is waiting for funding that needs our approval in order to get the funding. We're in the time of COVID, and the Commonwealth is not funding their projects right now. Mr. Minoyan explained that to me. He expects to hear any day now. If we were to change the status of this application as it currently is, we end up back on square one with the project. I'm not pleased with how it's moving forward, but I have to let my view of how it's moving forward is put it aside and give them the benefit of the doubt. I would hope that we would do that as a board. Any other comments from people?
yeah, I have a comment. I'm not on board with continuing anything that hasn't been requested by the applicant or until I find out that constructive approval is not automatically in place at this point in time. I want to know for sure that now that the COVID regulations have expired, I believe on December 1st, you told us, Mark, a few months ago, something like that.
Yes,
If we're back on the clock,
I think we're back on the clock.
constructive approval is in play. And I don't want to be party to constructive approval
No.
without a legal opinion on that.
I think what we can do is.
And without the applicant asking us for an extension.
Right. Well, I could go, instead of going to Mr. Moore, I could go to GPR and ask them to give us the extension, which would take care of that issue.
I don't see how we can vote on an extension without having a request for an extension.
Right. Well, I think we should that could be a good motion this evening, is to request an extension, perhaps till the end of February. And, I will contact GPR in lieu of Mr. Moore to see if they are willing to cover for him to give us an extension letter.
Is that acceptable to you, Mr. Diskin?
I need a clarification on constructive approval. It's happened before in the town.
Yeah.
It's not a good thing. We need to have a clarification on the time, the dates, when that falls in place. If we do nothing, they do nothing, I believe they can get constructive approval.
I don't know the answer to that question.
No.
So I reached out to Mr. Archambault to get a clarification on that. And
Yes. Yep.
I don't know what else to do unless Mr. Krantz has a comment or anyone else has a comment.
The only comment I have is that I find it difficult to believe that the applicant is not aware of what's happening right now, regardless of whether they sign that receipt or not.
I do too. And I just think as a board, we've put, I said it before, we've already put a lot of hours into this. We're anxious to be on board with whatever's necessary for the correct approval in the best interest of the location and the best interest of the town, as we've acted in the past. So I think we need a clarification, and I would ask the chairman to consider the statement that he made regarding the approvals needs to be in place before the funding. I'd have to have a difficulty understanding that if the application was put in without the approvals for the funding.
Excuse me. I was relaying what I was told. As you said, it was third-party information. I personally would like us to be in a position where we're acting on the final request we made of the applicant, because approval from the planning board has a 3-year lifespan.
Right.
And he doesn't need the funding for our approval. I do not know what's holding this project up at this point. And so in the conversation I had with Mr. Minoyan, I said, let him know that we want to finish this. We don't want it to drop into Never Never Land and negatively impact this project or negatively impact the town. And unfortunately, I don't know that and Mr. Diskin, you bring up a really good point of constructive approval. I agree, I don't want to go there. So I guess, Mark, you're gonna have to find out, please.
Yep.
And I've never not acted on an agenda item before, but I'm gonna ask us to move down to do a couple things at this point, because we do have we're at 7:30. I'm concerned about the time. And
Jeff, we do need to vote to continue this. Otherwise, it basically ends up falling under that constructive approval where no action was taken.
For the special permit 14 Washington Street and the plan review for 14 Washington Street.
Correct.
So the motion is, we will continue. I'm going to make the motion, please. I think I have it correct. Continue the public hearing for special permit 14 Washington Street until we get an answer from town council pursuant to whether or not, without a request from the applicant, we do not jeopardize the board's position by okaying this through constructive approval. Is that fair, Mr. Diskin? Anybody else want to?
Second.
Thank you. Moved and seconded. All in favor?
No, you have to do the
I'm sorry, Mr. Krantz.
aye.
Thank you, Mr. Diskin.
Aye.
Mr. King.
Yeah, reluctant aye.
Thank you, Mr. Murray.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Thank you very much. I forgot the language already, but I'm going to say, can we please use move to continue the site plan review for 14 Washington Street until Mr. Archambault is able to ascertain from town council that by taking this action, we do not run the risk of approving this with constructive approval until the next meeting of the planning board.
Seconded.
Thank you, Mr. Krantz. Mr. Krantz, how do you vote?
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Diskin. How do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. King, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Murray, how do you vote?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Thank you. Okay, Mark, we've got, you're on mute, Mark. I would point to it, but I see you doing something. I'd like to move on, and I know we've got an agenda administrative announcement, town planner update, administrative announcements in front of us, but we have members of the Conservation Commission who've been very patient, and I'd like to move to that if it's okay with the members of the board. And I think, Mr. Krantz, I'd like to turn the podium to you, and why don't you catch us on what's been going on? I'm pretty excited about the success you've had. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. If you recall at our last meeting, I was chartered by this board to form a kind of ad hoc subcommittee with myself representing the planning board and someone undetermined at that time representing the Conservation Commission, with the idea of let's sit down and hash out what's the best way forward for our two boards to work together with an OSRD process. Talked to Joanne directly, and Jess fortunately volunteered, and Jess and I had a great conversation last Monday. And in that conversation, all we did was set up the parameters. So we agreed, the two of us said that the main objective is to work out a sensible, rational process that works effectively for both organizations, the Planning Board and the Conservation Commission. And as a corollary B, is to take notes of what potential changes to the OSRD bylaw may be necessary in the future. We also agreed that the best way forward, in anticipation of our scheduled meeting together with the Conservation Commission, is that Jess and I would each solicit input from our colleagues in our respective boards to find out what their concerns, issues, and recommend or suggestions for procedural changes or improvements are. So again, I'm reminding you guys that I'd like to get those and compile them. Jess is going to get those from the Conservation Commission. Then the two of us, Jess and I, will gather together Monday. Actually, I think it's going to be Tuesday now. Mark, pay attention. It's going to be Tuesday now. And so that Mark and Joanne can participate. And the idea is to take those lists and consolidate it down to present that to everyone when we gather together as one group. And I believe it's January 22nd, Friday, January 22nd.
Yes.
That's where we are.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I really do. And thank you all for taking the time to join us this evening. Hi, John. Good evening. Hi, Jess. Hi, Joanne. I'm good. How are you? It's we're all back in our seats after vacation, huh?
Yeah.
So thank you. Any feedback from any of the board members on this? I appreciate, Jonathan. I saw your email the other day and I got thinking about it. I don't know that there's a little or a lot. I haven't really put my mind to think about that, but I do appreciate this. Any other thoughts from board members?
I'd like to hear from Conservation first, how they thought, what they thought about this approach, I guess.
Go ahead, Jess.
Yeah, Jess, please.
Oh, what's not to think? It's a good approach.
Okay.
Yeah.
He always, you don't get to sit in where he asks those tough questions,
Yeah.
Jess.
For a moment, I thought Jess was going to hang me out to dry for a second.
Now,
We took the time to make sure we had the best representative of our board out there to speak to the Conservation Commission and their representatives. So that was a pretty good decision by our board.
we got one right this year. or last year.
I think one of the things that Jonathan and I identified is that both boards could use a clearer understanding of the parameters under which the other board operates.
Exactly.
For example, I think Conservation needs to know more really about the minutiae of the time clock that affects the Planning Board, whether in the preliminary subdivision stage or the definitive subdivision phase. And then, as Jonathan and I discovered yesterday, understanding the limits of conservation jurisdiction is also important.
Right.
For example, with the Panther Place subdivision that was just being discussed, we don't have jurisdiction to review the entire parcel. We only have jurisdictional authority for those areas that have wetlands and buffer zone, even in the OSRD process at the moment. So, but your board has jurisdictional authority in the review process over the whole parcel in the planning stage. So we sort of have to figure out those different roles and responsibilities and what's legally viable. And then if we do come up with a different system of working, how do we need to change the bylaws so that it grants greater powers or whatever as decided?
That's interesting, if I may. In thinking about this, I sat around through the whole process of rewriting the bylaw, and of course, many people on the board were on the OSRD piece also. I don't think it was ever the perceived desire of the planning board to step in conservation, or this is my view of it. My view is we work in concert regarding who has jurisdiction, who doesn't have jurisdiction. There's also something that has been happening in a lot of places, and that is, and I tried to say this last month, and I don't think I was successful, is we do not want to remove your seat from the table, conservation seat from the table, if you will, because we value it at a very, very, very high level. So I look forward to working together on making this done and getting this done. You know, I like guidelines like no disturb within 75 feet, period. Just, you know, every applicant knows it's a no disturb. There will be situations on a lot by lot basis that may or may not be discussed once the lines get on the paper. Things like that are, and I'll put my views into, for what they're worth, I'll type them out into an email and get them to you, Jonathan. But you know, ultimately, the last conversation you guys had, I was a fly on the wall for a certain period of time. I'm not going to tell you how to do your work, but I think you're discussing with this Panther Place project, looking at each one of the jurisdictional lots that you have as a lot by lot basis. In other words, an NOI or whatever's required on a per lot basis, as opposed to a sweeping set of conditions for the entire project. I really like that.
Yeah, I think one of the issues, you know, over the course of the past year, we have not had time to work on our regulations, given full agendas, the pandemic, and limited meeting time. Yeah. But I think George Bacon said at our last meeting that whether an applicant submits an NOI for a set of conditions for the whole development or for lot by lot has been in the past up to the applicant.
Okay.
But one thing I think we've discussed and I'd like to see happen is that in our regulations, when we can do them, that we specify that for subdivisions, infrastructure like roads would be one notice of intent, but then it would be lot by lot, individual orders for each lot, and not a blanket order. And I think that's what you're saying, Jeff. But we have to put that, we have to specify that. Exactly.
I mean, we will get into the details. And again, I'm looking at the clock, and I know Scott's got to go home, and I got to get off the. I don't want to get my wrist slapped. I can go over. I'm going to push it a little bit, but no, that's exactly what I was thinking about.
Yeah, this is what we're going to do when we meet. We'll actually get into the meat of this. Yeah.
And I have some free time on my hands. I will do my best. If you guys want, I'd be interested in being involved. If it generates a quorum, I'll be the first one to back away also. I'm going to ask a question unrelated to this only because I drove around the corner again yesterday and I saw it again. There is and I'm not going to put anybody on the spot, but there's a deck being added or an addition being added to a house on the corner of Sandy Pond and Old Sandy Pond Road. It's number 72, I believe. The parcel between that house and the abutting parcel is a pond. I know there is a building permit that's been, I checked on building permit, but I'm kind of curious if there was ever any ask.
What's the location again, please, Jeff?
I think it's 72 Sandy Pond Road.
It's 62 Sandy Pond Road.
62, is it? Yeah, I got it wrong.
Yes.
So hey, John, if you go out your driveway, take a right, go over the causeway.
Yep.
It's the house between Old Sandy Pond and Sandy Pond on the right across from the bathhouse. Okay. And there's been an excavator in the backyard for a little while. They may have done this a long time ago, and they're just finally getting the work done. I don't know.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. I'm sorry. I don't want to bring you guys more work. Yeah, Mr. Krantz?
Do we have time to approve the 2 meeting minutes before we close?
I just want to go back to one thing, if you can, Jonathan, with the conservation.
You're up here, Ken. Go for it. Jonathan's down there.
And I know it's pressed for time, but the point that Jess brought up is a point that I've been thinking about, and I think it's really critical for subdivisions. And I like the idea of her separating the road construction, which is really what we're doing in the subdivision.
Yep.
Is approving the road construction and the shape of the lots. We really don't have any jurisdiction other than that for, if it complies with all the shapes and frontages and whatnot. But this particular applicant basically did already, I think, mention to us that their approach was going to be matching up with what you said. They would probably go on a lot by lot basis. But I'd like to think that would be some kind of a standard procedure that we would use. So that's my little piece that, and I think it makes perfect sense. If there's no impact on the road, they go ahead and build the road. And then when they go to build their homes, they can either show you how many lots at once, so they can show you one lot at a time or whatever it is, and then you study it accordingly. So thank you.
Thank you. If we're done with this, I want to thank you all for being patient this evening. And thank you all for making the time tonight to move this rock a little farther forward. As in always, you do a lot. You end up getting a lot of work done, but it supports you going into the future. And with that, I'm going to make another recommendation on the agenda. Mark, you've got town planner update, announcements of potential zoning bylaw amendments for April 26th.
I can do that in one sentence.
Go.
I've been looking at the density bonuses, which I believe are way too high. And I will have a little report on that for the next planning board meeting as to recommendations as to how to come up with more realistic density bonuses. We have small lot sizes. I think the consultant was a little bit too generous. So
Excuse me, Mark. Hey, Mark.
Yes.
I'm sorry. I appreciate it. I want to say thank you again to the members of the Conservation Commission. I think I was trying to do that a minute ago, but I don't know if you want to stick around or not, but thank you very much for taking the time to join us. And John, you're on mute.
That's how I sound best. Yeah, thank you for having us. We appreciate it.
Yeah, we look forward to working with you, John. Thanks. Okay, Mark.
So I'll send out a memo with my recommendations as to how the density bonuses could be pared back in order to, get us more realistic subdivisions in the future, learning from what we've had to deal with in the past and the present.
Okay.
So expect that in the next packet as well.
Great. Administrative announcements. We have old business and new business. Under old business, I only want to talk about the NIPD's wastewater compliance requirements, and I would have to turn to Mr. Diskin to tell us what. Hold on, let me finish my sentence, please. To tell us what NIPD stands for.
Oh God.
Bottom line, I think I sent an email out to people about it. What it comes down to is this: our wastewater treatment plant has a permit. It's permitted every couple of years, re-permitted on a timely basis. When we see projects that come to us that would impact our wastewater permit, that would typically be a business or a change at a business, we're going to be seeing Catania Oil pretty soon. We need to make sure that we have language in the approval that requires them to remain in compliance with our NIPD's, our town's NIPD's permit. And we'll be working very closely with DPW when that happens. But it's important that everybody have it in their brains. If we're looking at a manufacturing or something like that, we got to make sure that we don't put anything in the waste stream that's going to impact our permitting from the state. Their fines are brutal. Hey, Cindy, are you there? Yes. Can we have 2 more minutes to do the?
Yes, I am here. You may have 10 more minutes if you need them.
I hope not. Let's do the minutes for December 8th and December 22nd. Get them off our list.
Okay, I make a motion to approve the APB meeting minutes for December 8th, 2020.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Mr. Krantz moved it. Ms. Murray seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. Mr. King, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Diskin?
Aye.
Ms. Murray?
Aye.
Mr. Krantz?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Thank you very much. December
National
22nd.
pollution.
Now go away, Mr. Diskin. I need a motion for December 22nd, Mr. Krantz.
Yes, I make a motion, we approve the meeting minutes for December 22nd, 2020.
Seconded.
Moved, and Mr. Krantz, seconded by Ms. Murray. Mr. King, any discussion? Hearing none. Mr. King, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Diskin?
Aye.
Ms. Murray?
Aye.
Mr. Krantz?
Aye.
And the chair will make this comment. Thank you very much, Mr. Krantz and Mr. Diskin, for all the work you did on the minutes. Chair votes aye.
A quick comment that I appreciated the quality of both of the meeting minutes, the December 8th and December 22nd.
I saw that in the email. To finish up, Mark, we've got a couple things we're going to check on with the attorney. You're on mute.
Oh, yes. Yes,
Okay.
what we talked about with the 14 Washington Street constructive approval. Also try to set up a meeting regarding the power line easements.
Yeah, if you don't mind, yeah, okay. I'll be in touch with you about that. I'm around town in the morning tomorrow and stuff, but maybe I'll give you a call when I'm on the road, you lucky devil, to find out about that. Any other points from anybody else on the board this evening? Heather, thank you for getting me those plans today. It was very helpful.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Thank you.
I will be sending you the sheets to sign for the minutes too in a few minutes.
I'll just print them out.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll print them and sign them, leave them for you in the morning. Okay.
Very good.
Good night, all. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful 2 weeks.
Thank you, everybody.
Cheers.
Motion to
Thanks.
adjourn.
I'm sorry?
Motion
So
to
moved.
adjourn.
Oh, I take a move.
Good night, everyone.
I did it.
Julie was on mute, but she said so moved. We have a motion to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.